Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Ms. Shank, coming to you live from Alameda International High School. In this video, we're going to be still graphing those trig functions, and we're getting some more practice with that. So on my first one, it says y equals 3 times sine of x, and so we know we're going to start at 0. So it starts at 0, since sine of 0 is 0. So we're going to say our amplitude A for this one is going to be 3. So that means we go up to 3 and we go down to -3. We're going to have our value of B, which is attached to our angle amount. That's just going to be 1. So that means our period for this is going to be 360 degrees divided by 1, which is just 360. So that means that I'm going to have one peak from 0 to 360. And so what are going to be our critical values? Again, if you want to, you can draw that circle on the side, so that way it's a little bit easier. But I'm going to say this, I'm going to say my start point and end point are going to be the same. So I'm going to have my 0 degrees is going to be y equals 0, and my 360 degrees is going to be y equals 0 as well. And so now what are going to be my 3 other points in between? Well, what I can do is I can take 360 divided by 4, because I need to have those 4 points in between. So that means I go up to 90 degrees. I'll go up to 90 degrees. I'm going to say when x is 90 degrees, my y value is 3. My next value is going to be when x is 180 degrees, my y value is 0. And when x is 270 degrees, my y value is -3. And so you'll notice how it goes through one rotation from 0 to 360. Always double check using that wonderful graphic calculator. So I'm going to say y equals, and I have 3 sine of x, hit graph. And so it starts at 0, has one peak, and then it goes to 360. Again, I can always double check my values in my table. So I hit table. I want to change it to 90 degrees, so I hit plus, and then I say I need to change it to 90 because every critical value is at 90 degrees. And so I have 0, 3, 0, -3, and 0 again. So again, that one was super simple. Make sure you can change that window for yourself. In number 2, I have cosine of 2x, and so cosine starts at 1. All right, my amplitude for this one is going to be equal to 1, so I go up to 1, I go down to -1. My value of B is going to be 2, since it's attached to that variable x, which is our independent variable. And so that means our period for this is going to be 360 divided by 2, which is equal to 180. So that means that I'm going to have 2 peaks from 0 to 360. And I'm going to say that I'm going to have 5 points from 0 to 180, and then I have another 5 from 180 to 360. So again, I set a start and end at the same y value. So I have 1 and 1 at 0 and 180. So I have when x equals 0 degrees, I have 1, and when x equals 180 degrees, I have 1. Now, what I can do is this. I can take 180 divided by 4 to figure out where my other points are going to be at. So I have 180 divided by 4 is 45 degrees. So that means when I have my table, I can set my table to be changing every 45 degrees. So that means this. I'm going to go from 0, I'm going to have down to 45. So this is going to be 45 degrees and 0. I go to 90. I'm going to have my next critical value. 90 degrees is -1. And then I go up to 135, and that is 0 again. And then I go to 180, which is going to be +1. And then it repeats itself. So I have 225, 270, 315, and 360. So you can notice how it has 2 peaks, and I have those points there. So again, I can double check my table. So I hit y equals, cosine of 2x. I hit second, let's do graph. Let's look at the graph first. So I'm starting at 1, I have 1 peak and 2 peaks. And so when I hit second graph again, I hit plus to change my table. So I want to change it every 45 degrees. Hit enter. So it's saying these are your values: 1, 0, -1, 0, and 1. And so that's going to be that 1 rotation, and then it repeats itself. So again, always double check that table. Make sure your change in your table matches up your change in your values. All right, so moving on to that next one, I have y equals 5 times the sine of 2x. So I'm going to say it starts at 0. Our amplitude A is going to be 5, since our leading coefficient is 5. So that means I go up to 5, down to -5. Our value for B, so I have a value for B is going to be 2. And so that, just like that last one up here, it's going to be our period is 180. So our period is 180. Again, our number of peaks is 2, our period's 180, and every 45 degrees is going to be our change in values. So this one's going to be super simple since we're getting more practice with it. Our start and end point are the same, so 180 is our 0 and 180, both at y equals 0. 0, 180, nope, 0 degrees, and y equals 0, and this is going to be 180 degrees, and y equals 0. So again, start and end point have to have the same y value. We're going to say, let's see, every 45 degrees it changes, so I'm going to say I go up to 5, so it's a really tall function, so I'm going to say at 45 degrees, my y value is 5. I go down to 90, my y value is 0. And then I go to 135 degrees, and I'm going to have -5. So 135 degrees, and I have -5. And so notice how I go up to 5, down to -5, and end at 0. So let's see, I should be able to kind of repeat this process. So I have 225 at 5, 270 is 0, 315 is -5, and 360 is 0 again. Notice I have those 2 peaks, so it matches up. So let's double check using that technology. I can say y equals 5 sine of 2x. Hit enter, hit graph, really tall function. Actually, I need to change my window for this before I forget. But you can kind of see how it has those 2 peaks. Window, let's do start at 0, end at 360. Our change is 45. We go down to 5, up to 5, and now I can hit graph again. That way it looks a little bit better. And that way I can kind of use that whole window for ourselves. So we start at 0, we end at 0, and we have 2 peaks, so it matches up. Always want to double check my table of values. That way I know for sure I am good. So I say second graph, I start at 0, so my critical values are 0, 5, -5, and 0 again, and then it starts repeating itself. So use that table of values for yourself. And this next one, it has y equals 4 times the cosine of x. So it starts, since it's cosine, it starts at 1. Our amplitude A is going to be 4. Our value for B is going to be 1. And so that means our period is 360 divided by 1, which is just 360. So that means from 0 to 360, I have 1 peak. We say we start at 1, so when x equals 0, our y value is 4. So again, make sure you're saying cosine starts at that positive value. Start and end point have to be the same, so at 360, they are the same. So 0, 360, my y value is 4. And then my next values are going to be this. So I have 3 other points in between. So I start at 4, go down to 90. I'm going to have, so this is 0, 4. This is 90, 0. Go down to 180. So this is 180 and negative 4. And then I have 270 is going to be 0. And our last value, 360, is going to be positive 4 again. Always double check. And so I can say, let me scroll it over. I can say, all right, y equals 4 cosine of x. Hit graph. Let's actually change that around. So give it 1 second while it fixes itself. Because I had 2 x's in there, so it's going to look a little crazy. All right, so I'm gonna hit delete. Now we can hit graph and it's a lot smoother. Okay, start at 1, go down, or sorry, start at 4, go down to negative 4, and then I have 1 peak. Again, I can hit second table. I need to change my table to 90. And so I can say, let me do table set, start at 0, change to 90. There we go. So I have 4, 0, negative 4, 0, and 4 of my 5 critical values.